If you're going to fulfill your destiny, you have to have a made-up mind that no matter what comes against you, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many times you get knocked down, you are not going to stay down. You're not going to start complaining. You're not going to get soured on life and give up on your dreams. You're going to keep pressing forward, looking for your next victory. There's got to be a holy determination, a never say die attitude. The people that succeed are not necessarily the most talented. They are the most determined. They know how to persevere. When they fail, they don't see that as final. They learn from it and try again. When they face obstacles, they don't shrink back and get discouraged. They dig their heels in and fight the good fight of faith. And in life, there's always something coming against us. Disappointments, setbacks, unfair situations. And too many people just give up and think, well, it just wasn't meant to be. My marriage is not going to last. We're having too many problems. I'll never accomplish my dreams. The economy's too bad. I'll never get well, Joel. The doctor's report doesn't look good. No, if you're going to experience God's best, you have to have a backbone made of steel. You can't be weak, wimpy, spineless. You have to have a warrior mentality. No matter how long it's taking, deep down on the inside, your attitude should be, if I have to stand in faith my whole lifetime, I am not going to give up on what God has put in my heart. And when you have this holy determination, when you have your mind made up that you're going to outlast anything that comes against you, then no person, no obstacle, no sickness, no setback, no betrayal, all the forces of darkness cannot keep you from your God-given destiny. And I want to light a new fire on the inside. God did not create us to give up when it gets hard. He didn't create us to get discouraged when we face obstacles. He made us as more than conquerors. You have victory in your DNA. When God breathed His life into you, He breathed perseverance, determination, strength, courage, endurance. You have staying power. That means you can outlast every attack. You've been anointed to make it through difficult times. If you will dig your heels in and have this never say die attitude, then no matter what comes against you, no matter how long it takes or how difficult it is, when it's all said and done, you'll be able to say, I'm still standing. The enemy did his best, but his best was not enough. I've still got a smile on my face, a song in my heart, a spring in my step. I know I am a victor and not a victim. David said in Psalm 51 verse 10, God, renew a right spirit within me. The Amplified Translation tells us what a right spirit is. It says renew a steadfast and persevering spirit. Notice when God considers our spirit to be right, when we're determined, when we're persevering, when we have this never say die attitude. Not when we're giving up, not when we're negative, discouraged, complaining. I never get any good breaks. I'm so in debt, I'll never get out. Nobody's treating me right. No, that's not the right spirit. That'll keep you right where you are. The right spirit is to say, yes, I'm having some big challenges, but I know I serve a big God. And what was meant for my harm, I know God's going to use it for my good. So I'm not going to sit around depressed and defeated, thinking about what didn't work out, what I don't have, and who hurt me. No, I've got a destiny to fulfill. I'm going to get up and go again. I know I've been armed with strength for every battle. I know the forces that are for me are greater than the forces that are against me. I'm expecting God to show up and show out in a great way in my life. That's a right spirit. But some of you today, you've allowed your circumstances to push you down and convince you that it's too much and it's never going to change. Now you're tempted to give up on what God's placed in your heart. But I'm asking you to dig your heels in and say, no, this is a new day. God is renewing a right spirit within me. I will not give up on my dreams. I will not give up because somebody did me wrong. I will not give up because I tried and failed. I will not give up because the medical report doesn't look good. I will not give up because it's taken longer than I thought. I've got a made-up mind. I'm going to become everything God's created me to be, and I'm going to have everything God intended for me to have. There's got to be a relentlessness on the inside that says, no matter what happens, I refuse to quit. As long as God has given me breath to breathe, I'm going to keep pressing forward, pursuing my dreams, believing for His very best. Well, you say, Joel, I don't understand why this has happened to me. Why did I get cancer? Why did I get laid off? Why was I raised in a negative environment? I don't know why, but I do know this. Nothing that has happened to you can keep you from your God-given destiny. You might have had an unfair past, but you don't have to have an unfair future. You can take the hand you've been dealt and win with it. It may not make sense. You may not understand it, but God would not have allowed it unless He had a divine purpose. And if you will shake off the self-pity, shake off the discouragement, then God will not only bring you out, but He's promised He will bring you out better off than you were before. Our attitude should be, this thing is not going to defeat me. It may have knocked me down, but it didn't knock me out. I'm going to get back up and go again. Like that Energizer bunny that we see on TV, you got to keep going and going and going. I have a friend that's had cancer 3 times. I've never once heard him complain. I've never once seen him down and defeated. He has this never say die attitude. He knows as long as he's in faith, nothing can snatch him out of God's hands. The fact is, the medical report doesn't look good, but he has another report. He's not focused just on what medical science says. He's focused on what God says. This has been going on for over 10 years. He is relentless. He refuses to give up. His attitude is, this too shall pass. It's not permanent. It's only temporary. Sickness cannot stay in my body. I'm a temple of the Most High God. Many people in his shoes, by now, they would have given up, gotten discouraged, gotten worn down. Not him. Why? He has a right spirit. He has this holy determination. No matter what it looks like, no matter how long it's taken, he's unshakable, immovable. He's got a made-up mind. Not too long ago, the cancer came back for the 3rd time. The doctors told him they were going to harvest his white blood cells before they gave him chemotherapy. And that way, they could use those cells to help restore his immune system after the treatment. These are the killer cells that help fight off the cancer. He asked the doctors how many of the white blood cells they needed. They gave him this huge number. He said to the doctors, I'm going to give you twice the amount that you're looking for. And for the next few months, while he was waiting to take the treatment, all through the day, he'd go around saying, Father, thank you that my white blood cells are multiplying. They're reproducing, getting stronger, more effective, and they will do exactly what you've created them to do. They will attack and destroy these cancerous cells. Most people, while they're waiting to take the treatment, they just relax, take it easy to get prepared. Not this young man. Every day, he'd go out and work out, lift weights, run. All the while, he was envisioning himself healthy and whole. Through his eyes of faith, he could see those white blood cells reproducing. He went back to the doctors. They said, you're a man of your word. You have given us more than twice the number of white blood cells that we were looking for. He went through the treatment, and today he's totally healthy and whole, completely cancer-free. What am I saying? You've got to have a never say die attitude. Life may throw you some curves. There may be some bumps along the way. But always remember, every setback is a setup for a greater comeback. That difficulty was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to strengthen you. And if you will stay in faith, God will turn every battlefield into a blessing field. He'll not only bring you out, but He'll bring you out better off than you were before. You may be in tough times right now, but don't let that cause you to get sour. Don't complain. Don't blame God and think, why is this happening to me? No, learn to dig your heels in. look that obstacle in the eye and say, you have met your match with me. I know who I am and I know who's on my side. The creator of the universe is breathing in my direction. I've got victory in my DNA. I will not quit. I will not give up. I will not get depressed. I will not start complaining. My report is this too shall pass. This season will come to an end and a new season will begin. A new season in my health, a new season in my finances, a new season with my family. Friends, don't get discouraged. A new season is coming your way. Winter always gives way to spring. The scripture puts it like this: weeping may endure for a night, but joy is coming in the morning. It may be winter in your life right now. Things are difficult. You don't see any growth. It's kind of dark and gloomy. The good news is spring is on its way. A brighter season is right around the corner. One time I had this tree in my yard that looked as dead as can be. All my other trees were so healthy and they were full of these thick green leaves. I have this man that helps me to trim the trees, and I called him and told him about this dead tree. And he came over to look at it, and when he got there, I pointed it out, and he smiled and said, Joel, that tree is not dead, it's just not in season. I thought to myself, this tree is dead. It was ugly and barren. The bark was chipping off. The leaves were empty. I said, are you sure it's not dead? He said, I'm positive. It's not the same type of tree as your other trees. It's always going to bloom a few months later. Sure enough, in a few months, that tree was full of leaves, just as beautiful as all the other trees. What's my point? It looked dead to me. It looked like it would never produce fruit. Looked like it would never be healthy again. But the fact is, the tree was as alive as it could be. It had a bright future. It was simply out of season. And in the same way, at times we look at things in life and think, this is dead. My marriage is over. We hardly even talk anymore. This job will never get any better. I'll never get well. It looks dead to us. But just like that tree, it's really not dead. It's just not in season. Don't do like I almost did and cut down the tree. In other words, don't give up on a dream just because you don't see anything happening and it looks dead. Don't give up on a marriage because you hit a few bumps in the road. Don't give up on a child that's off course and been that way a long time. There's another season coming. You don't know, it may be right around the corner. Your new season could start tomorrow. You could see things start to blossom in your life this coming week. You get a good break at the office. You meet a new client. Things take off in your finances. In your health, you get a good report from the doctor. Your strength comes back. You feel good once again. In your family, that child that hadn't spoken to you in years, all of a sudden he calls and wants to be restored. What happened? The season changed. It looked like it was dead, looked like it was never work out, but you stepped into a new season. I love how the scripture talks about how our latter days will be better than our former days. You may have had some great seasons in years past, but you haven't seen anything yet. God has seasons of promotion, blessing, and favor in your future you've never seen before. Seasons that will even boggle your mind. Well, you say, Joel, I don't see how that could happen. Nothing's going my way. Doesn't look like it's ever going to change. Here's the key. You've got to learn to walk by faith and not by sight. If I would have just gone by what I could see, I would have asked that man, cut down the tree. It's dead. It's finished. Let's get rid of it. But that man could see something in the tree that I could not see. He had a trained eye. Maybe you think, my marriage looks like it's dead. In my finances, looks like I'll never get out of debt. In my health, looks like I'll never get well. But perhaps today I can see something that you cannot see. Through my eyes of faith, I can see a new season coming your way. You may be sick, but I can see you healthy and whole. You may be struggling in your finances, but I can see you blessed, prosperous, with more than you can ask or think. You may be lonely and discouraged, but I can see you happy and fulfilled with the person of your dreams. Now you've got to do your part and get in agreement with God. Anybody can quit. Anybody can give up when it gets hard. Anybody can get discouraged because it's taken a long time. That's easy. But it takes a man or woman of great faith to say, I don't see anything good happening in my life. It looks like my dreams have died. Nothing is going my way, but I am not moved by what I see. I'm moved by what I know. And deep down in my spirit, I know a new season is coming my way. I know I would not have breath to breathe if God didn't have another victory in my future. So I'm not going to go through this day or go through my life with no enthusiasm, focused on my problems. I'm going to focus on my God. I know my latter days will be better than my former days. You got to have this holy determination. You can't allow the setbacks of life cause you to get numb and become indifferent to where you give up on what God has put in your heart. The right spirit says, this may be difficult, but I know I've been armed with strength for every battle. This may be taking a long time, but I know a new season's coming my way. Life may have treated me unfair, but I know God will pay me back for every injustice. I love the promise God gives us in Isaiah 61 verse 7. The Message translation puts it this way: because you got a double dose of trouble and more than your share of contempt, your inheritance in the land will be double and your joy will go on forever. When trouble comes your way, instead of getting down, discouraged, giving up, no, have the attitude, this trouble just qualified me for double. It was meant for my harm, but I know God's going to use it to my advantage. For instance, if for some reason you were to get laid off, no big deal. I'm not worried. I'm not going to live life upset. I know a new season is coming my way. And it's not going to be an average season. It's going to be a season of increase. Double the benefits, double the friends, double the income. In your marriage, if it's under attack, I'm not going to give up and take the easy way out. I'm getting ready for double. Most likely, every one of us is going through something. Life happens, disappointments, setbacks. I heard somebody say, losers focus on what they're going through, but winners focus on where they're going to. In other words, if somebody did me wrong, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to forgive them and focus on where God has taken me to. I'm going to focus on the double that God has promised me. Like my friend that's had cancer 3 times, he's not consumed by that sickness. He is not overwhelmed by what he's going through. He's focused on his future and where God has taken him to. It's funny, he tells everyone, cancer made me better looking. They look at him kind of strange. Why do you say that? He says, because before I had cancer, nobody told me I look good. But now everybody that sees me says, you look great. Many times, what we're going through is simply transportation to get us to our destination. When my father went to be with the Lord, every voice was telling me, your best days are behind you. It's never going to work out. I could have easily lived with a chip on my shoulder, upset, discouraged. No, I understood this principle. I didn't focus on what I was going through. I focused on where God was taking me to. I knew a new season was coming my way. I knew that double dose of trouble qualified me for a double dose of God's favor. And even though it was difficult and at times uncertain, I had this holy determination. I just kept pressing forward. I refused to quit, refused to give up on my dreams. And what I thought would be my darkest hour turned out to be my brightest hour. That's what launched me into a whole new dimension of my life. I was talking to a gentleman a while back, and he had just lost his job. He had been with this company for many years, had a great position, making good money. And I thought for sure he would be upset and distraught, and I was going to have to cheer him up. But it was just the opposite. He had a smile on his face. He was as happy as can be. I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, Joel, I just lost my job, and I can't wait to see what God's going to do next. What is that? A right spirit. He was knocked down, but he wasn't knocked out. He knew when one door closes, God's going to open up another door. He wasn't focused on what he was going through. He was focused on where God was taking him to. He knew a new season was coming his way. That's the kind of people God's looking for. People that have a never say die attitude. I heard a story about these two little frogs that fell into a big bowl of cream. And the sides were so slick that the frogs couldn't climb up out of it. They had to paddle and paddle just to stay alive. And this went on and on. And that first little frog did everything possible to try to get out. But every time he got to the top of the bowl, it was too slick. He lost his grip and he would fall back. After trying it hundreds and hundreds of times, he finally said to the other frog, "We're doomed. We're never going to get out. We're just wasting our time and energy paddling around. We might as well give up." He gave up, went under. You didn't see anything more of him. The second frog, he tried as well, everything he could to get out, but he too kept losing his grip and falling back. But this second frog was different. He'd been coming to Lakewood. This frog had a never say die attitude. He thought, "I am not going to quit. I am not going to give up. I'm going to keep paddling as long as I possibly could." And he just kept paddling and paddling, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. That cream got harder and harder, made it more and more difficult, but he just kept going and going and going. 2 or 3 hours later, he had paddled so much, he had stirred that cream, and the cream finally turned into butter. It got hard enough to where he could just step on top. Eventually, he hopped out of it. That's what we have to do in life. When it gets difficult, you don't see any way out. Looks like you'll never get well, never get out of debt. Your thoughts will tell you it's over. Just give up. You're wasting your time. You've had cancer for 3 times now. Just accept it. Your marriage is never going to work out. It's too hard. No, the harder it gets, the closer you are to stepping out. And if you will just keep on keeping on, moving forward, living with faith and expectancy, being your best each day, then like that little frog, one day what should have destroyed you will be the very thing that helps you rise to a new level. And understand, the greater your challenge, the greater your future. If you have a big obstacle today, that just tells me you've got a big future. Keep pressing forward. Be relentless. Have a never say die attitude. Sir Edmund Hillary was the first man to ever climb to the top of Mount Everest. But he didn't make it on his first attempt. He had tried once before and not only failed, but he lost one of his men. One of his team members was killed. And after this failed expedition, he was in London talking with a group of reporters. And there was a big picture of Mount Everest right beside him. He turned and looked at it and said, "Mount Everest, you have defeated me, but I will return and defeat you because you can't get any bigger, but I can." You may be facing obstacles today that look huge. Maybe you too have tried and failed. I can't promise you that the obstacle will get any smaller, but I can promise you, you can get bigger. You have the power of the Most High God on the inside of you right now. Don't be weak, wimpy, spineless. Our attitude should be, this thing may have defeated me before, but it is not going to defeat me again. I know who I am, a child of the Most High God. I am anointed, equipped, empowered. I can do all things through Christ. This adversity is no match for me. And I believe even right now, God is breathing new life into your spirit. Your strength is increasing. Your vision is enlarging. You are strong, determined, well able, not only to outlast every adversity, but to overcome it. You may have tried and failed before, but God is saying, go again. This time it's going to be different. No, the obstacle didn't get smaller. You got bigger. God enlarged you. He increased you. You've got more faith, more confidence, more determination. My prayer is that you'll go out of here today with a greater resolve, with a new fire on the inside, determined that you're going to become everything God's created you to be. When you face difficulties, don't focus on what you're going through. Focus on what you're going to. Get ready for a double dose of God's favor. Now, I know some of you right now, there are things in your life that you could easily give up on. A marriage, a dream, your health, your finances. There's no growth. It looks dead, no life, no victory. But remember, just like my tree, it's not really dead. It's just not in season. And if you will keep pressing forward with a made-up mind, a never-say-die attitude, the good news is your new season is on its way. And I want to declare this over each one of you. You are coming in to a new season of growth, a new season of opportunity, a new season in your health, a new season in your finances, a new season in your relationships. I declare you're going to see God's favor, His blessings, increase, promotion, opportunity, a new season of God's best coming your way in a greater way. And if you receive that, can you say amen? I believe how we treat people is one of the most important things to God. In fact, you can measure a person's spiritual maturity not by how many scriptures they can quote, not by how many times they come to church. And although that's good, religious activity doesn't necessarily impress God. It's how we treat other people. In other words, am I being respectful to my wife? Am I kind to my children? Am I courteous to the man on the freeway? Am I friendly to the lady at the grocery store? Really, it boils down to this. Do I have a gentle, caring spirit? And unfortunately, much of our society is not like this today. Too many people are rude. They're harsh and insensitive. They'll blow right by you, not give you the time of day. They'll demand things from you, bark orders at you, instead of politely asking. I mean, where has common courtesy gone? Where has being understanding and going out of our way to show our love gone? And the Scripture says here in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 5, that love is not rude. One translation says love has good manners. And I want to challenge you today to develop a greater gentleness, a greater kindness, a greater understanding. You may not agree with everybody. They may do some things that you don't like, but that doesn't give you the right to be rude. Doesn't give us the right to look down on people and treat them as if they were second class. No, Jesus said, "By this will all men know that you're my disciples, when you love one another." And there should be something different about us. We should be the kindest, most friendly, most considerate people around. That's one of the best witnesses we could ever have. And if this is going to happen, then we need to watch the way we say things. Be aware of your body language. I read where communication is 60% nonverbal. In other words, your body language, your facial expressions, the tone of your voice, all of these things are communicating even more than what we're saying. And that means we need to learn to keep a pleasant demeanor. We need to learn to smile more often. And when you're under pressure, when you're under stress, you need to especially be on guard. Be sensitive and do your best not to hurt other people's feelings. And too often we just blow in and we say something very matter of a fact. And we don't realize it, but it's not coming out like we want it to. It's coming out much more harsh. And that could all be avoided if we just be a little more sensitive and a little more tactful in how we say things. I know the other day I came home and I was very tired. I'd had a long day. Victoria asked me a question and I did just what I'm talking about. I just blurted out the answer, very matter of fact. And I didn't say anything wrong and I wasn't trying to be rude, but my whole demeanor, my body language, the tone of my voice was basically saying, "Hey, don't bother me. Can't you see I'm tired? I want to be by myself." Now quit looking at me like I'm a sinner. I made one mistake. How about I give you the microphone? We're going to see what you did wrong this week. But after about 2 hours, when I noticed that Victoria wasn't speaking to me, I realized maybe I'd been a little insensitive. And of course, I pled my case. I said, "Victoria, I didn't say anything wrong." She said, "Yeah, but you should have heard how you said it." See, it was my voice tones. It was my demeanor. And that's what happens many times. We may be saying the right thing, but how we say it is equally important. Be sensitive and learn to say things in a pleasant tone of voice. Well, you say, "Joel, my personality is just a little bit stronger. I'm just real straightforward. I believe in telling it like it is." No, do not let your personality be an excuse to be rude. You can be truthful, but you can be truthful, but you can be tactful as well. You need to watch the way you say things, and you need to make sure you even need to say it. A lot of times we say things just to make us feel good. You may know you're right and you know the other person's wrong, but that doesn't mean that you have to correct them. You need to ask yourself, is this going to benefit anybody? Is this really necessary? Or are you just doing it to prove your point, to make yourself feel good? Now, when you go around putting people down, being harsh, being rude, you will always walk away from there feeling worse about yourself. Right down in here, you'll have that nagging feeling just gnawing away at you. You'd been much better off to just leave it alone. And you may have a good reason to jump in there and set the record straight, but understand this: if you're right and you're rude, then you're wrong. It's all in how you present it. And Proverbs 11:17 says, you do yourself a favor when you're kind. Notice, you don't just do somebody else a favor when you're good to them, but when you show a little mercy, when you overlook a fault, when you have that gentle spirit, you're doing yourself a favor. I know one time years ago, I was at this restaurant, and when it came time to pay, all I had was a $100 bill. And there was a sign up front that said no bills over 20. Well, I didn't see it at the time, and so when I went up there to pay, you would have thought I just put the company out of business. The lady behind the cash register was so rude. She said, "Sir, can't you see? No bills over 20. I said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't see it." She called the manager over, and I'll never forget, he looked at that $100 bill and he went, "Give it here, I'll take it." No, we need to be more understanding than that. When somebody puts you out, when somebody inconveniences you, you need to ask yourself, hey, have I ever put anybody out? Have I ever made a mistake? If you'll learn to show a little mercy, then you'll receive mercy. Even out here on the freeways, it's amazing how impolite people can be. A couple of weeks ago, I saw two guys almost get into a fight because one man turned from the wrong lane. And this other man got right up on his bumper and he was tailing him, honking his horn, shaking his fist, so upset. And I wanted to ask him, hey, have you ever made a wrong turn? Have you ever cut anybody off? He looked bigger than me, so I didn't. But we got to learn to give people a little room, show a little mercy. It's funny sometimes, somebody will jump in front of us in traffic and we'll want to honk and get upset. And then just a few minutes later, we'll cross 4 lanes of traffic to exit. Half of Houston will be honking, and we'll be thinking, come on, people, give me a break. I'm only human. No, learn to show a little mercy, be a little kinder, have that gentle spirit. And we should never do things or say things to belittle a person. Never make a person feel unimportant. For instance, maybe you're trying to explain something to somebody and they just can't seem to catch on. Well, don't get all huffy and puffy and try to make them feel like a loser. Be understanding. God has given us all different gifts, and there are areas that you can pick up on very quickly. It's going to take me a lot longer than just the other way around. We need to be understanding, keep the right attitude. I know people that are always trying to belittle somebody. Really, the problem is they're so insecure, they do anything they can to put somebody else down. Well, don't fall into that trap. The Bible says love covers a fault. Love covers a weakness, and love never embarrasses anybody. If somebody asks a dumb question in a business meeting, a dumb question at school, you should do your best to smooth it over. Cover for them, don't embarrass them. Or maybe you're up at that checkout counter and the clerk that's running that cash register can't seem to get anything right. Maybe he's new. Well, don't just stand right there and breathe down his throat and tap on the counter. Come on, buddy. No, give him a little bit of slack. Say, hey, you know what? Take your time. It's okay. See, what I'm saying is learn to show a little mercy. After all, we've all been in those situations before. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever asked a dumb question before. We've all had times where we need a little mercy. We need a little understanding. The other day when we opened up this building, they gave me a key to get in back here where we park. And it was this real odd-looking key. It was kind of oblong, and I'd never seen anything like this before. And so I came down one day during the week, and I tried to figure out how this key is supposed to work. And I had it jiggling around the doorknob, and I don't know, I thought maybe something was going to pop out, but I just couldn't get it to work. And so finally I had to go get the security guard. And I told him what I'd been doing. He said, well, let me just go show you. So we came back over to the back door, and he took my key and he put it over to the right of the door on this electronic keypad. And when he touched that, then the door just electronically opened. And when he realized what I had been doing, trying to put that key in the doorknob, he began to laugh and laugh. And then I started laughing, but man, he could not quit laughing. And after a while, I thought, I'm glad you're enjoying this because we're sure going to miss you. But you should do your best to never make anybody feel small. I felt about that big. When somebody does something foolish, when somebody makes a mistake, just remember, with the same amount of mercy you show, that's the same amount of mercy you're going to receive. And we need to learn to be understanding. If something is not right, there's a way to correct it without being rude and getting all upset. I was at a fast food restaurant one time, and this guy was up at the counter, and he was just having a fit. He was so upset. He said, listen here, I've been here for 10 minutes, and I've watched 3 people leave that were behind me in line, and I demand to know what's wrong. On and on he went, giving them an earful, just making a big scene. No, remember, you may be right, but if you're rude, then you're wrong. You need to learn to lower your voice tones. Ask in a respectful way. I've found people will do more for you if you're kind and courteous than if you're rude and obnoxious. Politeness wins people over, not rudeness. You need to learn to be understanding, not demanding. It's like that guy I heard about. He was up at the airline ticket counter ranting and raving to the ticket agent, complaining about why it's taking so long, complaining about why she couldn't go any faster. And as he continued to just holler and scream and throw a big fit, this ticket agent was just as calm and courteous and polite as she possibly could be. Didn't even look like it bothered her. Well, he went on his way, and the next guy in line came up, and he said, ma'am, I got to tell you, I am so impressed. You must be a good Christian. That guy was so obnoxious, yet you were so polite to him. I don't know how you did it. She smiled and said, well, it wasn't that hard. See, he's going to Detroit, but his bags are going to Bangkok. Friends, people respond to politeness, not rudeness. Proverbs 16:21 says, a mature person is known for his understanding. The more pleasant his words, the more persuasive he is. Notice, if you want to be more persuasive in your business meetings, more persuasive with your clients, don't get loud. Don't be critical toward your competitors. Be pleasant. Be courteous. Be respectful. You want to be more persuasive with your husband, more persuasive with your children, more persuasive with the waiter at the restaurant. The whole key is in the tone of your voice. It's in our demeanor. It's in our attitude. We've got to learn to be friendly, respectful, considerate. Please understand, you are never persuasive when you're rude. We're never persuasive when we're loud and obnoxious. You've got to make sure that your words are pleasant. It's politeness that changes people. It's being respectful. It's being understanding. I heard somebody say, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. If you go around sour all the time, spouting your opinion, trying to straighten everybody else out, not only are you not going to be a very good witness, but people are not going to respond to that. I've found if you give respect, you'll get respect. If you're courteous to people, they'll be courteous to you. And if you'll have this gentle spirit, and go ahead and let the guy in front of you in traffic and stay at that door 10 or 15 seconds and hold it open for the people behind you. When you do that, God will make sure that people are always good to you. And we need to get in a habit of being kind and considerate to everyone. Not just the people we're trying to impress, but even the people that can't do anything for us. Even the people that are just passing through our lives. I believe this is really the test of our faith. Because in a sense, we can all be nice and kind to our friends and to our coworkers because we want to keep a good reputation. But how about that man on the freeway that wants to get in front of you? Or how about that lady that calls during dinner time trying to sell you something that you're not interested in? In other words, the people that can't do anything for us, we'll probably never meet them. Nobody's watching. Nobody's going to give us any credit. And the easy thing is to just blow them off and say, hey, you know what? Kind of stay away from me. No, I'm challenging you today to develop a habit of being friendly. Make an effort to smile at people. Take time to compliment them. Take time to hold the door open for them. Don't be in such a rush in life, in such a hurry that you miss these opportunities to sow seeds of kindness. We should be considerate everywhere we go. And we need to make sure that we never feel like we're too important or too busy to say please and thank you. Learn to express your appreciation. Even if you're paying somebody to do something for you, even if they're one of your employees, that doesn't mean you don't have to thank them. That doesn't mean you can just take them for granted. I've had people say, Joel, I pay them good. They better work hard. But no, have you ever thought about that person is made in the image of Almighty God. He's got feelings, she's got feelings. They need encouragement, they need your approval. Take time to thank them. Be grateful. Say, hey, I appreciate all you do for us. Thank you. See, just because we may be over somebody, just because you may be in management, that doesn't give us the right to treat people under us like they're second class. In fact, God is going to hold us to a higher standard. To whom much is given, much is required. And the truth is, the more authority we have, the more humility we should walk in. And the fact is, the same God that brought us up can be the same God that'll bring us down. And one thing that God will never tolerate is that someone that abuses their position of authority. And if you're in leadership today and you want to stay in leadership, you need to make sure you treat people right. It's funny, I've seen people, they're so nice and kind, but you give them a little bit of power, they get a little authority, and all of a sudden it goes to their head. They start bossing people around, being rude, being harsh. That's never going to last. No, treat your employees good. Parents, treat your children good. If you're a coach or a teacher, treat those students respectfully. God's going to hold us responsible. And really, this all needs to start at home. The atmosphere of our homes should be peaceful, should be one of respect and honor. And husbands and wives, if we're saying disrespectful things to each other, all we're doing is teaching our children that it's okay to be disrespectful. If we're making cutting, sarcastic remarks, we can guarantee our children are going to grow up doing the exact same thing. See, more is caught than taught. Your children are not going to necessarily do what you tell them to do. They're going to do what they see and what they hear you doing. You can tell them all day long, be kind, treat people with respect. But if they see you being disrespectful to their mother, to their father, to another family member, you're giving them a green light to do it as well. Now, there should be a sense of honor in our homes. And parents, we should not go around barking orders at our kids. Hard and harsh. Clean your room. Take the trash out. I told you, do your homework. No, be an example. Learn to say it in a loving and a kind way. And I believe that we should even get in a habit of saying please and thank you to our children. We're training them. And sure, we can boss them around and bark orders at them and make it do it. But I believe it's much better to say, hey, Jonathan, please take the trash out for Daddy. Or Alexandra, thank you for keeping the room so clean. See, there ought to be a gentleness about us. Be kind. Be grateful. I know every time Victoria cooks dinner, I make a special point to thank her for it. And I know she knows it, but I want her to hear it again. And I especially want my children to hear me expressing my thanks. And sometimes it's sad to see what really goes on behind closed doors. And as I said, we can all be nice and kind out in public. That's easy. But the real test of our character is how do we treat those that are closest to us? How do we treat our own family members? Sometimes we can end up treating somebody at the office better than we treat our own wife, our own husband, our own children. You know, we don't think twice about going to get a cup of coffee and bringing it back for a coworker, doing them a favor. But if our own wife, our own husband ask us to do that, it seems like we get all put out. And I've seen men, they'll go out of their way to open up a car door for a business associate, but when it comes to his own wife, she's got to fend for herself. And that's not right. We should treat our own family better than we treat anybody else. I mean, they're the ones we're going to grow old with. They're the ones that mean the most to us. And some of you need to examine your heart today and make some adjustments. Make sure that you're treating the ones very closest to you with respect and with honor. There's a scripture that says, a man's wife is a reflection of his glory. In other words, Victoria is a reflection of me. And how I treat her can be seen in her smile, in how she dresses, in her attitude, in the way she carries herself. She's a reflection of my glory. Now, if she's all beaten down and depressed and she goes around discouraged all the time, then me being her husband, I need to examine my own life and make sure that I'm not missing it somewhere. And I know some women that are just like this, so beaten down, and it's all because their husband is so domineering. He's not kind, he's not affectionate. There's no love and respect in the home. He's not putting into her what she needs. And year after year, that husband just drains the life and energy out of that wife. And that should not be. Men, you need to look at your wife and see if she's reflecting the joy, the peace, the victory that God wants her to have. Remember, I used to play basketball with these guys, and after we got through, there was this one guy, he'd always come up to me and he'd say, "Well, Joel, I got to go home and see my old lady." And I often thought, if you speak about your wife like that, you must not think too much of yourself, because she's a direct reflection of you. I don't know about you men, but I want my wife to shine. I want Victoria to be happy, to feel good, to look good. She's a reflection of my character, of my goodness, of my glory. And no, I'm not perfect, but I can tell you this, I respect my wife. I treat my children kindly. I do my best to treat my own family better than I treat anybody else. And that's the way that it should be. I heard somebody put it like this: at your house, you have these different dishes that you eat off of. And if you're in a hurry and you're out playing ball, out mowing the lawn, a lot of time you'll just grab some paper plates. They're quick and easy, and when you're done, you just throw them away. You don't have to worry about them getting damaged. But then most of the time, you're going to use your everyday plates and dishes. And you've got to be careful with them, but they're a lot more durable. They'll withstand a lot of wear and tear. But then every once in a while, on a special occasion, you'll go into your dining room and you'll take out your fine china. Now, these dishes are expensive. You've got to handle them with care. You don't just toss them around and treat them any way you want. They're valuable. You'll go to great lengths to make sure that they're taken care of. And in a sense, that's the way it is in life. Some people we just see in passing. We need to be respectful and kind, but they're not in our lives very long. And then, of course, we have our group of friends. We have our co-workers. We see them more on a regular basis. And again, we need to treat them right. But when it comes to our own wife, our own husband, our own children, they're not the paper plates. They're not the everyday wear. These people are our fine china. They need special attention. We don't treat them like we treat everybody else. We go the extra mile. We got to make sure they feel loved. They feel respected. They feel secure. They need to know we care about them more than anybody else. And oh yes, we need to be kind and courteous to everyone, but these people are the ones that God has entrusted us with. And I would challenge you again today to make sure you're not showing your boss or your neighbor or your friends more respect than you're showing your own family. You've got fine china. They need that special care. They need to know more than anybody else you're concerned about them. And I want us to have strong families, strong marriages, strong relationships here. And I know how much the enemy would love to tear us apart. And it starts so slyly. It starts with just a little disrespect, a little comment here and there. And then as time goes on, you don't think anything about it. You let your guard down, and then more and more disrespect comes. And before you know it, you're living in two separate worlds. No, take care of your family. Make sure that you're treating those the closest to you with respect, with love, better than you're treating anybody else.
If you are going to fulfill your destiny, you have to have a made-up mind that on matter what comes against you, no matter how long it takes, or no matter how many times you get knocked down, you are not going to stay down, you are not going to start complaining, you are not going to get sorted on life and give up on your dreams. You are going to keep pressing forward, looking for your next victory. There's got to be a holy, never say die attitude. The people that success are not necessarily the most talented, they are the most documented. They know how to persevere when they fail that didn't see that as final. They learn from it. And they again when they face obstacles they didn't shrink back and get discouraged. They beat their else in and fight the good fight of fight, and in life there's always something coming against us, unfair, and too many people just give up and think, well, it just wasn't meant to be my marriage in not going to let where problems I will never acceptable my dreams.